I'm going to build a new controller. I just received my Experience Lights controller, and I'm going to put it in a new box. I ordered a enclosure, a new one. My last build, I used a bud box for a Falcon F16 V3 series. I built that quite some time ago. I got a new box here from your Pixel store. It's a metal one. It's quite large. It's bigger than the one I have. The one I have is kind of hard to get access to everything. Although it does work, it does a great job. It's been using it for years, runs my Mega Tree. But I thought I'd upgrade to a more roomy box, and I need more controllers because I have more pixels. Well, today I'm going to walk you through a build of my control box. So let's get going. So let's take a look at the control box. It comes with a key. To lock it, it's got a triangular insert on it, and you see there's a triangular hole. So I don't think you want to lose this thing. It's kind of unique. I don't know that I could find a replacement easily. So I'm going to store that in a safe place. The bottom plate I've ordered with 32 holes for X connectors. Coming out, one's going to be for power injection, the other's going to be for the output from the controller card. There's 5 holes here for Ethernet ports. On the Experience Light board, you have 5. You have 2 for DMX, 2 for long-range extenders, and 1 for your Ethernet. So that takes 5, and you got 2 holes for power cords. And on the inside of it, open it up here. So you have pre-installed studs for mounting your backer plate. These here or there looks like they attach the mounts for mounting onto a pole or whatever device what you're trying to mount them onto. Here's some intake vents. There's 2 of them, and you have a large fan in the top. And then on the lid here, you'll see you got a nice foam gasket. Should seal nicely right up against this ridge right here. I have 4 12-volt power supplies. I'm going to be using 2 of them on the board itself, and 2 will be for power injection with fuse boards. I ordered with it the temperature controller for the fan. It comes with carriage bolts. This design's a little different than other boards that I've seen before, build kits. So I'll show you that as we get into it. There's some standoffs, a bolt, couple bags of screws and standoffs. I'm going to take these carriage bolts and put it through the bottom of the backer plate. There's 6 of the gray ones, and they're for mounting your power supplies. So I'm going to, and you'll see here the board's got these square cutouts in it. So the carriage bolts will lock in position, it won't rotate. So I'm just kind of putting them through and pushing it through it. And then the silver ones we'll use for the upper base plate. And actually one of the silver performs a double duty, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So to review what I did on the carriage bolts, there are a total of 10 square holes in the backer plate, and you install all 10 of them. The silver ones go on the outside, so the bottom 2 and the top 2 are the silver. The gray ones, which are a little bit shorter than the silver carriage bolts, go in the center. I'm now going to use the standard your Pixel Store mount for the power supplies that will slide over these carriage bolts here. Here are the mounts. Give you one right here. The arrow, these mount to the bottom to these holes, recess holes right here, using an M4 screw right here. It has an Allen head on it, so you have to use a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench, which I have here. And this points to the terminal connections on the power supply. So let's go ahead and get this one set up here. Here I have 2 different styles of power distribution boards. This one's a Falcon. I got it a few years back, and it's got 8 outputs on it. And I got these 2 little ones from J-Boards. Actually, I really like these for some of my receiver boxes using the Harbor Freight ammo containers. And they're nice there. I'll have 4 outputs, and I have 4 I'll use for power injection. Don't need the larger 8-port ones. I'm going to drill some holes in the back of the plate here. Probably put it right about this location. I'll use some of the little standoffs and M3 screws most likely. Start with just a little small hole. Drill that through there once I mark it, and mount these in place. So now I'm going to take these M3 screws. They're 16 millimeters long, and I'm going to use these little plastic standoffs. Now you can make these yourself. This came with the mounting kit, but you can make them yourself also just using the small refrigerator tubing. This is a 1/4 inch OD. It's essentially the same thing, just small plastic. It's actually the exact same diameter, and you just got to cut off a little sliver, and that'll do the trick. So let's go ahead and get that started. Let's do one. Let's do a close-up view of the mount. So I have M3 16 screws. They're just barely the right size, but I do get full engagement on the nut. And if I can get a good view underneath, you'll see I have another nut and those plastic spacers that keeps it up high enough so the back side where all the solders and the traces are don't come in contact with the board. Come in. So now I'm going to wire the power supplies together and run some DC power to the power distribution boards. I'll do that before I put it in the box because it'll be easier to organize the wires. I got spools of wire I got from Home Depot. And I'm going to cut some short pieces to run between the different power supplies. Have the right color for white being for neutral, black for load, and then green for ground. I'm going to get all those together, and then I'll bring the power cords in. The bottom power supplies are mounted to power distribution boards, all fused. I got a Falcon one here. I have the 2 from J-Boards, smaller ones. One thing to keep in mind, the Falcons positive and negative are opposite of the J-Boards, so you just have to pay attention. So I always make sure my DC power is V plus is red and the V minus is black. And then the top 2 power supplies are what's going to feed the controller. And so you can see I have the wires there. I have yet to bring in the power cord, but that'll be just a little bit. Now I have everything wired in place. I have the zip ties to keep everything nice and neat. When it's open like this, it's a lot easier to work with. Next step will be to put it inside the actual box. So now it's time to put the power supplies and the backer plate into position. Real quick here, show you, it might be hard to see. There's actually, I got a little plastic standoffs that I put in place underneath it. I cut that using refrigerator tubing. Really handy to have around, refrigerator tubing. Alright, so now I'm going to put the nuts. There's 6 posts. Looks like they're M4s. The kit came with these nuts that's got nylon lock washers built into them. And I'm just going to thread these in place by hand. Now I'm going to install all the connectors, okay, on the bottom plate. We have PJ7s for the X connects. We have the PJ9s, which are going to be for the power cords. And then we have our Ethernet connectors, pass-throughs for it. There's 5 of those. And then we have the power, and then we have them. So I'm just going to start installing these right now. I'll start with the X connect. Simply remove the nut on the back, slide it in, and screw it in place. Now I have to say, First I've done this one. That's the very first one I've done. This is a lot easier, a lot better connection than with my bud box build. These, the throats on these things are relatively short, and they're all the same. What I got here with this thin metal plate, which is actually probably stronger than the plastic, it's thinner, and therefore it is, you get more threads engaged. I've had my bud box pop off every once in a while because of the connectors aren't quite the threading. There's enough threads engaging. So I'm just going to go through the process here of installing the rest of these. Here I've taken off the waterproof connector for the Ethernet cord. And I'm just going to take the back nut off, put it in place, and screw it in place. Okay, got a couple of small channel locks. Just do the final cinching down of it so it doesn't go anywhere. So now I'm going to start wiring my pigtails. I've ordered X connects. You could raise Ray Wu's, Paul Zhang's. There's several different styles you can get. I've chosen X connect. They've kind of become close to a standard. What I'm going to do is I have the female side, the one with the nut on it, will be the outlet from the controller. The male will be used for power injection. All right, so I'm going to run power injection first, since I'm using the bottom because it'll be closer to my fuses. And the top 16 will go to the controller and be closer to there. It'll be a bit more organized with the cable layout. So I'm going to start putting in the power injection ones. I label all my wires so I can keep them straight as I use them every year in my show. I have one of these Brady wire labelers. It's got a self-laminating wire labels. It's real handy. You don't really need this, but I mean, you could actually use tape if you wanted to and mark it with a Sharpie. But I like the neatness. I'm going to label each one of my wires. The first one I installed, I've labeled each of my power supplies and the connection point and which fuse number it's on. So I pre-printed one here. The next, these just peel off. Take the first part. This way, whenever I take it off, or when something's not working, I can tell right away where it goes. And you see how it wraps around and it protects the label. So I do this on the inside and outside. As I go through the whole build process, I'll be doing that on every single one of these. I'm preparing one of my cables here. This one's for power injection, so I'm going to snip off the data line, the yellow one. And sometimes they're tight fit, so I take these nippers and I kind of just nip off a little bit all the way around, just to make a little like angle, so when it slides through that PJ7 connector, it slides on nice and easy. And then I'll just take my strippers and just take off a bit so it fits in that Phoenix connector, so I have enough copper there for it to grab on and hold on to it. There we go. So with that preparation there, I'm going to go put that into the box and wire in my Phoenix connector. This one's going to go on the 8 spot, and I'll label it appropriately. I have a small screwdriver. Do that, and you need to pay attention. I'm going to open up the little connectors here. There we go. Got them opened up, and I need to pay attention with the labeling. Okay, so the left side will be the positive. All right, I'm going to put that in there, tighten it up, make sure it's nice and snug. And now the blue being the negative. They're nice and snug. Do a little wire pull test. There we go. And I'm going to slide it in position. And then pull the cable to the reasonable length. Now I'm going to install the controller to the top mounting plate. The top mounting plate has all kinds of holes on it for different controller configurations. This one is pre-done for the Experience Lights card, and it uses 3mm, and 4mm would probably fit as well. Screws comes through it. The card will line up with the 4 mounting posts. And so what I'm going to do here is you need to put these plastic offsets and put the screw through here. Set it in place. Go the one here. Take the next one over. Get it lined up. Put the screw on it. And the final one. Slowly raise it. There they all, not quite there, they're all down. And I have these 4 nuts here, all M3s. I'm going to thread it on by hand. That one started. Ooh, almost lost it there. Next one. So the kit came with these blue pieces of tubing for the standoffs for the top plate. It's about 3/4 of an inch when I push it over the top of the nuts, and it's about the right place when I test fit it. It came with a bunch of these smaller ones, which are designed for stacking multiple power supplies on top of each other. I didn't want to stack multiple of these pieces just under one piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 1/4 inch OD tubing. Just got it at Home Depot. I'm just going to mark it there. I'm going to mark it off with the top of it. And I'm going to mark with my pencil mark. And I'm going to come down 3/4 of an inch, just to be exactly like this one. And I'll trim it, and I'll make 2 of them to go on top of there, which is where these are the 4 posts for the top plate. I now have the standoffs, just using that tubing. This is the 1/4 inch tubing. There's a larger one, is the blue that came with the kit. Gonna line it up and test fit it. Looks like we're in great position. Now I'm going to connect the pigtails that come out of the controller to the connector blocks on the Experience card. They have a new system here. They have these spring-loaded connectors. There's no screws on it. They're actually pretty nice. I have the brown, yellow, and blue cables here. And I've stripped down a little bit of the wiring. And the way you install this, you use a screwdriver and you push down the terminal. The right side here is the V positive, and you slide it in position. Now that's in place. Now I'm going to take the yellow, which is the data, which is the center, push that down, slide it in the back, and it's in position. And then the final one being the negative, I'm going to push it down and slide in position, and now it's locked into place. You can see that that's nice and secure, real positive. I do like these versus the Phoenix connectors. I think they are a superior product. And then I'm just going to repeat that to the whole rest of the build. Well, let's look at a close-up of how I'm wiring the pigtails. Female side for the output of the controller, you see number 1 and number 2 there. We go number 1 and 2. I have number 1 on the bottom and number 2 on the top. And the reason I'm doing that, if you look at the control card, the first input is the first one you get to, and the second is right behind it. And by doing them one on top of each other, they'll line up more precisely as you go across and do all 16 outputs. And so it keeps in a nice row. It makes your wiring a lot neater. I'm going to set the bottom one to be the Ethernet, because that'll always be used to communicate with my show network. And these up to 4 will line up with the 4 additional outputs off the controller card to be used for DMX devices or external receivers. So this tool is really quite a handy tool. So you can strip the insulation off the outside, just score it a little bit, break it free, and now you expose the twisted pairs. I'm going to have to get then you'll snip this off with a pair of scissors. but then I go through the process using the color guide. Okay, and I usually use B. It's the one that's right on top on my tool. And you just untwist them and line them up with each other. So I had the brown is first, the brown and white is second. Next, I need just the green. So one thing you're also doing is that there's always a white striped one next to a solid. Okay, so now the green and white goes down later. So I'm going to get the blue and white. And I'm going to twist those. And the blue and white lines up with the next to the green, and then it's solid blue. Next one is the orange and white. I'm going to untwist those, and since the orange and white striped one will go right next to the blue, solid blue. And then we have the orange. Oh, I made a mistake. Let me go back here. So after the blue, the next is the green-white stripe. So I'm going to lower that one down and put it next to it. And then the next one is the orange cable or wire, and then the orange and white striped. So now you have them all in line with each other. I always like to snip off using this tool to make all of these nice and even with each other. There's a little snipper there. All right, and so now I'm going to take this, and I am going to take, again, following this connector with the same order, slide it through, and there it's sticking out the end. And now I double check my wiring. So I got brown and white, solid green, blue and white, blue, green and white, solid orange, orange and white. It's all in the right order. So now I stick my connector into its receptacle, and then I squeeze it together, and that crimps it on and cuts off the ends. The little tug on it, and there we go. They have one end of an Ethernet cable all fabric. Sometimes you do have to clear off the little edges. All right, so now I'm going to do that on the other side, and then we'll do a test. So I stripped the wire on the other end of my Ethernet cable that I'm making. I push it through my connector, and you'll see I have a little bit more wire sticking off the end. Again, to double check the order: brown and white, green, blue and white, blue, green and white, orange and white. And that lines up exactly with the color code on my tool. So now I'm going to slide it in, crimp it, break off the ends. So now I have both ends of my cable. Next step, take my tester, plug it in. All right, so there and there. Now let's turn on and see if I got a good cable. Okay. We see it's going to colors, both sides. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Good. That's a good cable. I can use that in my build. Either one of these testers is very helpful in your show. We use Ethernet cables for receivers. We use them for internet. If you're making your own cables, you can save yourself some money. And even if you don't make your own cables, you have one of these testers. If you got a bad cable, you can find out by just getting one of these simple testers. They're extremely inexpensive on Amazon. Well worth the money. So I've taken that Ethernet cable I just built, plugged it into my bottom Ethernet port on my box, ran it underneath the plastic card, and I've run it right into the Ethernet connector. All right, so I won't film it, but I'll get the rest of the cables made and get them all wired up. Experience Light control card does not have a fan controller built into it, at least not that I am aware of. So I purchased a temperature controller along with this box. And this one, it took a little bit of figuring how to get it to work. So what we have here is your positive line, your V plus, and your ground. And then here, S1 and S2, that's actually a dry contact, so it doesn't flow any power to it. So in order to get it to work with the fan, what I had to do is I created a jumper wire on the positive line, and I ran it to the S1. And then I ran the positive wire from my fan, the red one, to the fan. I had to cut the little connector on it. Since I did not have one of those standard computer style plugs anywhere to connect it to. And then the black wire from the fan went to the ground. All right, so when I've done that, so I have this powered up, I'll flip it over. Well, before I flip it over, the way I'm going to mount this is I've got double-sided tape. I'll peel that off and I'll stick it to my board here. So let me flip over the controller. And you'll see here it's got a temperature reading of 62 degrees. And I have a set point of 98 degrees. So I'm going to adjust that, push the set button. And I'm going to run that temperature down. So it'll actually test the fan. I'm now 47. That should be plenty cool enough. Click there. You see the green light turns on. Means the switch is on. And if I be a little quiet, I think you can hear and see the fan move. There it's going. I'm going to... There's also this restart button is a power button. So I'm going to hold that down. Turns it off. And you will see the fan spinning down. And it is off. So a little more complex in the wiring than I expected, but it worked just fine. I've completed the build of my newest controller box using your Pixel Store Large steel container. As you can see, I got a test pattern going here. Opened up, we'll do a review of the inside. There's the controller with 16 outputs, all the outputs labeled inside the box. And on the outside of the box, there's a temperature controller. And you will see 4 power supplies, each one labeled to where it goes. And then down below here, you will see the fuse boards that I have for the power injection cables. I've got built my own Ethernet cables to go to the differential receivers and the DMX ports, and there is Ethernet, and I have that all labeled here on the outside, so there is no so you don't have to go searching for what wire goes where. All right, that pretty much finishes up this build. I hope this helps somebody out there. You guys have a wonderful day.